China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
Well,
China ate your...
At that point, that's just chaos. If you remember, what Donald Trump is talking about here are the information coming out from the Hunter Biden laptop, quote unquote. At least that's what people have been calling it. That information coming out of that laptop is pretty incriminating if that information is true. Basically, Joe Biden has said that he had no conversations with his son while his son was on the border of Burisma and he was viceroy of the Ukraine. Again, Burisma is in the Ukraine. And in addition to that, especially in that business communications, well, based on the documents that were released recently by the New York Post or that were on that laptop, well, you had conversations between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and not just conversations between the two, a request for assistance from Viceroy of the Ukraine, or for that matter, the Vice President of the United States. Meaning Hunter was well qualified for the job that they needed him to do. No, that had nothing to do with oil and gas, and no, that had nothing to do with the Ukraine. It did have everything to do with Biden being a last name. Meaning, everything that they needed of him, he already could do, because all they needed of him was being a breathing, living body with the last name of Joe Biden. Look, there are a lot of crackheads out there who would have loved to have the opportunity that Hunter Biden had, but they're just crackheads. They're not crackheads with Joe Biden as their dad. And in this very specific instance, you have a lot of stuff that has come out from this laptop that the question, honestly, that needs to be asked and needs to be discerned is whether or not it is true. Now, Biden has basically done non-committal denials or non-denials denials where they basically receded into the woodwork and they've let the mainstream media run block and tackle for this story. Meaning, when Joe Biden basically just shuts up, meaning in this debate right here, he was more vocal about saying that's not true and pushing back on it. But for the most part, Joe Biden has just vanished on this very specific instance. And the media, as opposed to asking the basic question about, is it true? Instead, pretends as if it doesn't exist. It's very bizarre. The level of censorship associated with social media seeming like it's jumping outside of the, in order to protect and throw their body on Joe Biden in order to protect him from Trump is astonishing. When Trump's taxes came out, there was none of this stuff about not doing leaked information, or when the information came out about Afghanistan saying the Russians were paying the Taliban in order to kill Americans. No issue with that at all. None of the stuff had issues associated when it was Donald Trump that was being attacked. And again, this is not a rah-rah Trump. It's more so I'm trying to point out the disparity between the way that the mainstream media deals with information associated with Trump as opposed to information that's associated with Biden. Putting your fingers in your ears, screaming that it's not real is not the exact same thing as discerning that the information is not real. I want you to hear Vladimir Putin's response to all of this. After all, whether it's Trump in Russia from the standpoint of Joe Biden and the Democrats, or whether it's Russia and Iran that is somehow influencing the election, in both cases, both parties have basically accepted that we are weak and powerless to either have elections or, for that matter, to even run our own affairs as a country. Because China, Iran, Mexico, all of these countries are apparently eating our lunch. And that's from both parties. Both parties. Neither party wants to take responsibility for its own failings. In this very specific instance, though, instead of Vladimir Putin and Russia being dragged through the media, we're going to get the opportunity for Putin to actually answer a question that's related to our politics and to our election. Donald Trump basically invoked the mayor of Moscow. Well, at some point, somebody was going to ask Vladimir Putin a question about the American election, especially from the standpoint of the things that Donald Trump has been accusing Joe Biden of, and the things that Joe Biden has basically gone mum on. Putin is asked about this. And I'm going to let you hear his answer. Diplomatic, statesman-like. He knows that he's probably going to have to deal with Joe Biden coming up in the very near future. And even if he wasn't or didn't have to necessarily deal with Joe Biden in the near future, he was still diplomatic in the way that he gave a non-answer. The mainstream media is running with the headline that Putin basically rejected Donald Trump's claim on Joe Biden. I'm going to let you hear for yourself, and I'm going to ask you, is that an outright rejection of Trump's assertion? Or for that matter, the laptop? Now, we don't know whether the information in the laptop is legit or not, because that seems to be the thing that they don't necessarily want to ask. But either way, there has to become a reckoning with whether or not that information is legit and real. And like I said, at this point, you have everything from pornography to crack to, meaning Hunter Biden pornography, to crack smoking, and business interests. That seems to be dicey at best. I'm going to let you listen to Vladimir Putin give his response. And like I said, at the end of it, I'm going to ask, is this Vladimir Putin saying this didn't happen? Or is this a man who's basically trying to stay out of the American domestic politics? Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I've done this video like 3 times. And I have no idea what happened to the last one. So I'm going to do this one last time. Now, at this point, Vladimir Putin is a very busy man. Everything from dealing with the issue in Belarus, the crisis in Belarus, the crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh, where they are actively murdering each other. The issue of Kyrgyzstan, where you have political fallout in that country also. Of course, Armenia and Azerbaijan, which, again, you could say the main factors in Nagorno-Karabakh. And even Turkey, which is kind of like a frenemy at this point, that has been sticking his finger and nose into all sorts of issues that have been giving Vladimir Putin a headache. Now, I position this and I bring all this up because I'm trying to make the point that he has a lot busier and more interesting things, puzzles, and problems that he needs to deal with as a statesman, as opposed to dealing with conspiracy theories in the U.S. politic or political body. Now, we don't know, like I said, whether or not the things that are on that laptop are legit or not. However, he's being asked, and as such, he's going to give a response. Like I said, the likelihood, to me, of Russia going through all of this in order to put it in a laptop and give it in this kind of weird way, I don't know, it just seems so over the top to me. And yet, Democrats take that as just a natural. I mean, the Washington Post went so far as to say, even if it's legit, you should treat it like Russian disinfo. And that's so sad. Let's play the clip. This is Putin being asked about Hunter Biden, the Ukraine, and some of the business relationships.
Yelena Baturina had business, maybe still has. I don't know about that. Probably she had many business contacts with her foreign partners. Were there Americans among them? I simply don't know anything about that. He did have, or maybe still has, business. I also don't know about this. It doesn't concern us at all. It concerns Americans and Ukrainians. At least one company is known, and he de facto headed the company, and apparently made very good money from it. But I don't see anything criminal about it.
Apparently made good money off of it, but I don't see anything criminal about it. Just backs away. And I love, he says, I don't know anything about it like 4 times. He says, but I don't know anything about it. And he'll drop a little bit of information, but I don't know anything about it. Now, do you honestly believe that Vladimir Putin, in Russia, head of state in that country, is not going to be aware of, let's say, intel associated with either Biden's behavior in the Ukraine or, for that matter, Biden's kids' behavior in the Ukraine. Meaning, this gets into the political space. I have a hard time believing that Putin wouldn't be aware of what is taking place in the Ukraine politically and from the standpoint of even business to a certain degree, especially when it's business on a big level where it's dealing with international affairs. But that's kind of besides the point. More than anything else, it seems like he's basically saying, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it. And the media that's kind of making this proclamation that Vladimir Putin basically is rejecting Trump's claim, I'm not hearing an outright rejection here. He over and over, I think 4 times, says, I don't know anything about it. Even though he may be given a small amount of detail in regards to the information that he's outputting. And maybe if I gave them the best of light, that they're looking at this and saying the same thing I'm saying. There's no way that Vladimir Putin doesn't know about what's going on in the Ukraine from his perch as the prime minister, as the president of Russia. And if that's true, then any way that somebody says something has to take a certain degree of significance. And is it that he says, I don't think that's true, but I don't know anything about it? Is that in and of itself a rejection? Or is it specifically what he said, meaning I don't know anything about this, even though my knowledge of this, it doesn't sound illicit, dodgy, but perhaps not illegal. I don't know. I'm fascinated by this. Under normal circumstances, we're talking about his politics, and we're talking about something that's going on in Russia, and we're dragging them with our image of what Russian politics is like. And in this very specific instance, you get him addressing it individually himself, speaking to the camera without a filter. I like that. Like, share, and subscribe.